Somit, but you know that you are heading towards the Q4 earnings season when you have all the Q4 updates coming in, isn't it?
Well, yes, and it's the banking sector which is actually in focus. We saw HDFC Bank come out with its numbers, and not only HDFC Bank, it's RBL Bank, AU Small Finance Bank, and what key trend that we are seeing is that the focus has shifted more towards increasing deposits. And if you see the Q on Q growth in deposits, they have been stellar. And we have Ashesha joining us to give us and put all the Q4 updates that have come in for banks into perspective.
Well, yes, let's start with the largest private sector bank then, HDFC Bank. As you mentioned, the stock is up nearly 2%. Deposits have seen a solid growth of 7.2% on a sequential basis. Advances, meanwhile, have seen an uptick of about 1.6% on a sequential basis. The stock is gaining 2%. Moving on to Sarvoday Small Finance Bank then, the stock is soaring in trade today, 12 to 13% higher than time I checked. Gross advances have seen a solid uptick of 41% on a year-on-year basis, with deposit growth at about 50%. CASA ratio too has improved by about 160 basis points to 20.1%. Moving on to AU Small Finance Bank then, this counter is also gaining nearly 5% on the back of solid data for the quarter gone by. Deposit growth of 26% YOY, advances growth of about 25% on a year-on-year basis, and CASA ratio continues to remain stable at about 33% sequentially. RBL Bank also reporting strong set of operational data. The stock was up nearly 2 to 3%. Advances grew 20% YOY. Deposits also reported strong growth. Year-on-year basis, they've grown by about 22% on a year-on-year basis. Let's also talk about the NBFC space then, and in that first up, L&T Finance, it has rather reported in-line set of operational data for the quarter gone by, with retail disbursements at about 15,000 crores, which is up 33% on a year-on-year basis, and retail loans at the end of fourth quarter stood at about 80,000 crores, which is up 30% on a year-on-year basis. And lastly, Poonawalla Fincorp, it is off the highest point, but despite that, gaining nearly half to 1% after total disbursements in fourth quarter grew by about 52% year-on-year basis and 11% on a sequential basis. And AU has seen a solid growth of 50% YOY. So strong operational data from Poonawalla Fincorp as well.
All right, strong operational updates coming in, at least for the financial space. Thank you so much, Ashesha, for putting that into context. So not just banks, you also had the NBFCs also come out with their number. But let's bring on board our guests for today. We have Kush Bora as well as Vivek joining us on the show to take us through what one should do when it comes to the entire financial space. Very good morning to you, Kush, as well as Vivek. Thank you so much for joining us on ET9. Kush, let me actually come to you for a change first. And I know the financial space is pretty vast, especially when you talk about banks, about NBFCs, and then when you talk about banks, there's private sector banks, there's PSU banks. But if you have to narrow it down, do you have your favorites? And please don't tell me HDFC Bank in that lot.
Hi Vivek, good to be here. Well, and I mean, you've made it a little difficult for me by ruling out HDFC, or rather easy actually. That was the easiest of the lot. But I'll tell you what. Have a stock-specific approach. Have a bottom-up kind of an approach, rather than going as you said into the whole jargons, which is PSU, private, NBFC. So all of that. I would rather be stock-specific, bottom-up. So we've spoken about Jio Financial quite regularly. HDFC Bank, despite you telling me not to, does remain one of the favorites here from here on. But we're also looking at some of the other names. Now, if you look at the likes of Poonawalla Fincorp, the stock doesn't really have that kind of a momentum, but the kind of stability it's showing and the up move that it is showing, it's surely a candidate for investing from a medium to a long-term perspective. Then within the banks, you've got the likes of PNB and Union Bank. So I have some of these names. Just as a disclosure, we've recommended some of these to our clients also as a part of our advice. But Union Bank, PNB, Jio Financial, Poonawalla, these are some of the stocks that I'll have on my radar. And there is obviously the list of stocks that you must avoid, the likes of PEL and IDFC First Bank. So some of these are a very clear avoid for us, but it's heartening to see the Bank Nifty outperforming and playing that catch-up rally in the market. I think good days are here if the Bank Nifty at least sustains, if not even moves from here on.
Vic, how are you seeing the Q4 updates that have come in for banks? I guess the focus has been much more on increasing deposits because post Q3, the concern was on banks not being able to get the cheap deposits. But now it seems that the deposit growth has been stellar for all the banks. How are you reading into this Q4 updates?
Now, see, even if you say that don't talk about your favorite cushion, me cannot resist about it. And since the stock was below 1400, even I was screaming that please buy HDFC Bank. And I'll tell you, below 1400 levels. In fact, previous show also we had a discussion, and I was saying that HDFC Bank looks the most interesting stock right now. And see, what I have been telling my clients is, yes, there are issues, and these issues can continue for next 3-4 quarters. But at 1400 levels, if you buy HDFC Bank and you just wait for, say, 2 years, and if it gives you even 2000 price, you're talking about 21-22% CAGR, which is very good return out of a large, and you don't lose your sleep also. So this was the bet, and I'll tell you, if you we would have bought at least few truckloads of HDFC Bank at around 1400 levels. So that remains still the best bet. And among PSU banks, I think SBI needs a look. Please have a look at it. Still below 10 PE, and it is no way inferior to HDFC or ICICI or IndusInd or Axis. It is equally good. And after whatever the cleanup has been happening in PSU banks, I think SBI is something which can, I shouldn't say double, but yeah, I feel if things go the way they are, it should be at least a 1200 rupees stock. So SBI remains the second best pick.
Right, so yes, despite saying no HDFC Bank by default makes the list, isn't it? So it's HDFC Bank, SBI, the top favorite. But just marking what's flashing at the bottom of your screen, you have the rupee that has in fact fallen to a record low versus the dollar, and this despite the dollar index actually falling in overnight, isn't it? But yes, just it's not only rupee, you have other currencies as well that are inching lower when you compare them to the dollar. Right now, you have the rupee at a record low.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.